Welcome to On the Sports Lines, the only show where one of us said last week that Phil Simms was the last franchise quarterback that the Giants had. I'm Steven Rabinowitz. That's Anthony Strait, and the guy that's currently into my side is the guy I'm currently giving the evil eye to, Jay Kaplan.
Hey,
Defend yourself.
I don't need to defend myself.
You do need to defend yourself.
Give me who qualifies as an actual franchise quarterback for the Giants since Phil Simms? Give me a name.
Eli Manning, the
All
guy
right,
who won two
fine.
Super Bowls
All
for
right, fine.
them.
You got me on that one. Call it a brain cramp.
Yeah, it
You
was a
know,
brain
you know
cramp.
what? You know what? He's not a franchise quarterback. He was a good rental, though. I'm throwing Kerry Collins.
Hey, but here's the interesting thing. Neither you nor Joseph corrected me last week.
No, I gave you the side eye. We don't have to correct you. We were just like, we knew you had the brain fart, but we're just like, what?
Didn't catch the
Because
side eye.
it
Sorry.
happens. It's all
Sorry,
right.
with all the brain farts I've had
I'm
on
just
this show,
surprised
I
you
mean,
resisted. I'm surprised, Anthony. I'm surprised Rabbi resisted an opportunity to like poke me on the air. I'm like,
with all
Oh
the
no, I
all
was
the,
we were going well with Joe, so I was waiting
yeah.
until next week to do it. Let's go, boys and girls. The Other Sports Lines Trade Deadline edition is owned. Last Thursday, it was raining outside like crazy. I saw Live in Collective Soul. I'm a 90s boy. And oh, yeah, everyone and their mother, grandma, and unk got traded. We'll talk about the deadline deals at the sad baseball locals, plus who cooked at at the trade deadline, who let the pot boil, and who just serves spoiled broth. Ew. We don't serve spoiled broth at youtube.com/, on the sports lines on demand, and facebook.com/, on the sports lines live. So subscribe. Let's do it. Let's start with the New York Yankees, as the team that plays on 161st Street and River Avenue decided that they were almost up the River Avenue without a paddle at the trade deadline, and they beefed up everything: bullpen, third base, bench. I'm going to talk about the results and concerns from that. Spoiler alert, it's a bunch,
hmm.
but we're going to give some grades for the pitchers and hitters going into this deadline. So, Professor Kaplan, give me a grade on the hitting side of the ball. And the
I'm,
fielding side of the ball, too, by the way.
I'm going to give Brian Cashman a solid B for the position players that he brought in. Ryan McMahon, third baseman who was traded in from the Rockies. They picked up Ahmed Rosario, who's a utility player from the Nationals. They picked up Austin Slater, an outfielder from the White Sox. And while the game between the two teams was in a rain delay, Jose Caballeros moved from the Rays locker room to the Yankees. McMahon, who was acquired from the Rockies a week before the trade deadline, was the big position get by GM Brian Cashman, as third base was a gaping hole in both the field and the lineup. So this was very much a trade that filled a major need for the Yankees. They gave up a pair of pitching prospects, neither of which is close to big league ready, and will have McMahon manning the hot corner for at least the next two seasons, as he's under contract through 2027. Now, McMahon's calling card is his defense. Per the two primary advanced defensive stats from Fangraphs, he was ninth in MLB in defensive runs saved and fifth in MLB in outs above average prior to the trade. And for his career, he has been one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball. Since he became the Rockies' full-time starter at the hot corner in 2018, he's number 4 in both defensive runs saved and outs above average among all major league third basemen in that time frame. He's made some spectacular plays since coming to the Bronx, so he's earned his paycheck with his glove alone, but the Yankees need more than just his defense. Where he has struggled is with the bat. In that same time frame, he's never had a season where he's posted a weighted runs created plus higher than the 97 he put up in 2022. And for his career, it's at 89. It's at 90 so far this season. MLB average is 100. His career slash line in Colorado over 9 seasons: 240, 323, 420, OPS of 743. He has shown some pop, averaging 19 homers this season, and he's hit 20 or more in each of the 5 seasons where he played at least 140 games. He has 16 so far this year. But when you look at the home and road splits, you can see the Coors Field effect, as his slash line at home, 265, 345, 476, with an OPS of 821, versus a road slash line of 215, 300, 360, with an OPS of 660. He also struggles against lefties, and it's most noticeable in his power numbers. 106 of his 140 career home runs have come against right-handers. His slugging percentage is .436 versus righties. It's .377 versus lefties. His left-handed swing is tailor-made for the short porch at Yankee Stadium. His pull rate has been above 30% in each of the last 3 seasons, but he's yet to leave the yard since donning the pinstripes. All that being said, considering that the 2 players he's replacing, Oswald Peraza and Yorvit Vivas, were both under the Mendoza line in batting average and had weighted runs created plus numbers that were 64 and 39 points less than McMahon, respectively, the bar for McMahon's offense to be an improvement is pretty low. The other acquisitions are upgrades to the bench. Both Rosario and Caballeros can play multiple positions across the infield. They replace Peraza and Vivas in that regard. Both can play second and third, but Caballeros now becomes the Yankees' backup shortstop, something to keep in mind if Anthony Volpe continues to struggle with the bat. Caballeros also gives the Yankees another outfield option. He's also gives them a speed merchant on the base passes. 35 stolen bases lead the American League. Neither of these guys carries a big stick overall, but Rosario hit .299 with 3 homers and 10 RBIs and an .816 OPS in 93 plate appearances against lefties prior to the trade. So he gives the Yankees an option against top lefty starters if they want to sit McMahon, though defense at third base will drop when Rosario plays. He's -2 in defensive runs saved and -5 at outs above average. Austin Slater, who barely had time to put on the pinstripes before going on the 10-day IL with a hamstring injury, ostensibly was acquired to give the Yankees a right-handed bat to give switch-hitting Jason Dominguez a platoon option, as his splits versus right-handers compared to left-handers are pretty severe this season. Against righties, Dominguez is .280, .352, .436 slash line, .789 OPS. Against lefties, .200, .277, .289 slash line with a .566 OPS. Slater has a career .795 OPS against lefties. He was at .859 with a .522 slugging percentage in all 5 of his homers this season against lefties. So once he gets back, he'll help offset the very left-handed swinging outfield with, besides Dominguez, Trent Grisham, and Cody Bellinger. Put it all together, and while neither one of these players will dramatically move the needle, they filled a key positional hole and improved the roster's positional flexibility both in the field and at the plate. Though, as I said earlier, the bar was low on both scores, especially at the plate. Now, if only the other acquisitions would start playing to the backs of their baseball cards, Anthony.
Oh, geez. You know what? I was giving the Yankees a B going into before this show, because I felt like they had a decent job. In fact, both New York teams I thought really addressed the need that was definitely out there. That was bullpen. But there's a reason why I had to drop this grade down to a C. And obviously, Jay, you and I were just talking about this before we went on the air. The Yankees got David Bednar from the Pittsburgh Pirates, part of the trade deadline. Going into the deadline, the Yankees bullpen was ranked 21st in the majors with a 4.24 ERA. A figure that absolutely skyrocketed to 6.29 in the month of July as the Yankees unfortunately decided to took a bit of a step back in the standings. We know about Devin Williams' struggles. We have talked about this ad nauseum throughout the season and on this show. I think we all take it turns pointing out his struggles at some point in this season. Luke Weaver has kind of been offline. He also had the injury as well. So Bednar steps into a situation where he has a possibility of being the closer if things work out well. He's 17 for 17 in save chances with the Pirates this season, except for 5 losses. So that could be a bit of a question mark if we want to put him in high pressure situations. Did get his first save 24 hours ago against the Texas Rangers. Hasn't been with the Yankees. So far, so good for Bednar. Camilo Doval from the Giants give the Yankees some depth in the bullpen. He's one of those bullpen guys that unfortunately can walk himself into trouble. Has a high velocity arm, can get the strikeout. If he can avoid the walks, that would be a good plus as well. And here's where the grade drops. Jake Bird, the acquisition of the Colorado Rockies. Now, on paper, this is like a solid trade. A 1.41 ERA through early June at the start of the season. As Sputter as of late, 13.20 ERA over his past 17 starts, and diminished his strikeout rate. You figure maybe the change of scenery and playing away from Colorado would help him a little bit. And then his first two appearances as a Yankee took place. He got rocked, and it doesn't help when the very first time you take the mound as a Yankee, you get hit with you give up a grand slam.
Yeah.
He's been optioned to Triple-A Scranton, literally 2 days before, 2 days ago. So right now, the Yankees bullpen, among other things that's going on with the Yankees, that unfortunately Aaron Derek Jeter pointed out last Saturday night. Um, the Yankees bullpen has been and historically has been one of the biggest strengths. I mean, we saw it the last few years. We saw how good the bullpen was in a couple years ago when he didn't make the playoffs, and they were definitely good last year, regular season and in the postseason down the stretch. But this year has not been the same, and the acquisition of Devin Williams was supposed to really give him that surefire closer. And I must have made the joke about Devin Williams maybe still not recovering from the Pete Alonso home run last October. It's not.
Not a joke. It's
It may
not a
not be
joke.
it may not be a joke, and it's definitely not a
Oh,
punchline that Yankee fans are laughing at right now. I mean, he's supposed to be the guy. It reminds me. Look, it gives me Amano Benitez flashbacks. It's like, okay, you're good in the regular season, but you're gonna give me a heart attack, and I'm gonna put you on the mound in a high pressure situation, and Aaron Boone just has a bedlam of problems to have to figure out right now. I mean, like it's not just what's going on is the mental mistakes, but the pitching. It's like it gets to a point where, especially out of the bullpen, and I'll talk about the Mets as well. You start losing confidence and trust in the guys you can put on the mound to get three outs without walking guys and putting guys on base or just make it matters worse. And like I say, Aaron Boone's got a real problem on his hands because the trade down was supposed to help this situation. It might have made this even muddier for the Yankees.
yeah, and it
It's
hasn't helped
Go ahead,
that
go ahead.
both Carlos Rodon and Max Fried have kind of struggled since the All-Star break, which has put they haven't been able to go as deep into games as they had been prior to that, which is also stressing the Yankee bullpen because it's had to get more outs when those guys are pitching, something they did not previously have to do. So you could deal with you could use them up when the other three guys were throwing because you knew Rodon and Fried for the most part were going to get you into the seventh. And that's kind of been the struggle. Rabbi, you and I have talked about this before, and I was talking to Anthony about it before we came on the air. I don't think Devin Williams is a New York Yankee next year.
I think that's a pretty obvious statement to make. Again, I just getting away from the bullpen because I do feel like those moves. Again, you can't necessarily say I think the Bird trade was a bad trade to begin with, but you can't necessarily say hey it was a B 2 weeks a week ago, but now it's like a C minus. But I think there's still a little bit of time. To the Rodon, so there's a bunch of reasons that things that the Yankees need to improve on, and now they're starting pitching is a big one. You just mentioned it. I'm just going to quickly mention the numbers here. Max three through June went 6.4 innings per start average, 1.92 ERA, 2.78 fifth FIP, and a WAR of 2.9. Since July 1st, and remember he had the injury where he had the blisters in the hand, which put him out for just one game. But since July 1st, he only goes 5.2 per start, a 5.81 ERA, 4.02 FIP, and a .4 WAR. He's had four straight starts, 5 out of his last 6 where he's allowed 4+. Rodon, on the other hand, a little bit of a difference, 2.95 to 4.78 ERA. Innings pitched is still like 5.9 to 5.5, but he walked more batters than he struck out on Wednesday. They didn't win that game. And only 3 times in the last 21 games have the Yankees gotten 6 innings out of their starters. 7 times the starter has failed to complete 5 innings, and that includes a bullpen game because of the blister that happened with Fried. Luis Hill made this Hill Rookie of the Year last year, finally made his season debut on Sunday last week, 5 runs in 3 1/3 innings, and he's missed 4 months, and he really only threw not even 15 minor league rehab innings. So now you have time that you need to use for Heel. Clark Schmidt is gone. Marcus Stroman has never been effective. He's also gone. They got a good start out of Will Warren on Tuesday, and they lost that game one, and they lost that game because the Yankees just couldn't provide any offense whatsoever in
Yep.
that game. 19 and 29 is what the Yankees are in their last 48 games. They have gone from 7 up in the AL East to 6.5 games back. They have the 5th worst record in the major league since June 12th at 19 and 29. The Nationals, Rockies, Twins, and Giants are the only teams who are worse. Now, the other thing I want to mention, and I'm not going to get into Aaron Boone today. Aaron Boone is a problem, I think. He has a lot of stuff to worry about, but he's just not making the right decisions right now. The Devin Williams situation being the big one. You basically say on Monday that he's being demoted, and then you put him in probably the highest leverage situation you possibly can on Tuesday in a 0-0 game, which ended up becoming a 2-0 game because of the situation. But the thing is, Anthony Volpe is not the same player he was in the first 2 years. He's pitching, he's hitting better. He's hitting better in terms of power, but he has had errors galore. He's had 16 errors this season, 5 in the last 17 games. And he's not even a stolen base threat this year. Caballero is the league leader in steals. Volpe is 14 for 21. Austin Wells was third in the Rookie of the Year last year. Still a good blocker, but he already has cleared his home run total, already has 15 fewer appearances, but his batting average is almost a little over the Mendoza line at 208. On base percentage of 265, higher strikeout rate, a walk rate that is over 5% less, now 6.5. It was 11.4 last year, and a chase rate of over 5% more. And so the league average chase rate is 27.8. His chase rate is 30.7. It's not that the Yankees haven't had production from their young people. Jason Dominguez has done very well for his first full season. Ben Rice has proven that he could be basically the utility player on this game and could end up taking some more time at catcher if Austin Wells just continues to be a zero when it comes to just contact hitting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of problems for the Yankees going forward. Now, the question you really have to think is this the team that we should have expected in March? Or can this team become the team that was pretty dominant and looking like a contender in the AL going here? They're still 6th right now in the AL. They're still in a wild card spot, but they are barely holding on into that wild card spot. And they have a tricky schedule coming up too. Luckily, they don't have to go to Toronto anymore this season. That's been a house of horrors for them, but the Yankees just seem lost right now, and I'm not sure what's going to change it, especially if they don't get anything from their starting pitching.
Yeah.
And the younger pieces of that lineup just do not click because Judge isn't there. Then you really don't have a real number one threat on this team right now. You have a lot of solid threats, but all those solid threats can't equal one big threat. And even that big threat right now can't really cover for some of the holes in the Yankees lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that it seems, I mean, the Marlins series in which they got swept was kind of a microcosm of things, if you think about it. They lose the middle game of that series in a pitcher's duel. They get one of the best outings Warren has had all year, and they can't give him enough offense. This is that same offense put up 12 runs the night before, but because all the deadline guys, and because you got guys in the bullpen imploding, it's the first time since 1973 the Yankees have scored 12 runs in a game and lost. Yeah. I don't know where they go from here, Rabbi. Something has to click. And I don't know if it's Max Fried finding that, early season magic, or Judge, getting on a tear like he had coming out of the gate this year. Somebody somewhere needs to get on a tear. We need one starting pitcher and we need one player, those two guys preferably, to kind of find who they were at the beginning of the season, or else I don't know how you forget about, upward trajectory, how you just keep this, keep your head above water so you can just get into the playoffs as a wild card.
And even getting your head above water with so many hot teams right now and teams going for it may not be enough too. By the way, the Warren start was in the Texas series. I was kind of confused myself. Miami.
Schlittler pitched the
Schlittler pitched that first game, but Warren had the game in the Texas series. Schlittler had a good 5 innings. That was actually the one good bullpen game that they had going in, which made up for the game beforehand. But enough of this funeral. Let's go to crap, it's the Mets. So I guess we're really not going any further here. The Mets did a lot of the same things the Yankees did this trade deadline. And unfortunately for the Yankees, they also have one singular win since the trade deadline. I guess that's going to muck up your grades a little bit than what you were doing. I'm glad I didn't pick doing the grades this time. I think I dodged a bullet here. Anthony, Mets didn't do a lot offensively, but the center fielder that a lot of people have asked for is here in Cedric Mullins. Give me a grade.
That would be me giving you the grade because
that would be Jay giving you the grade because of something else on that. Okay, never mind.
B minus. I'm going to give them. This is a definite need, and anybody who's paid any attention to the Mets this season knew it, but their head of baseball ops, David Stern, publicly stated that center field would be the position they would be targeting at the trade deadline due to the injury to Jose Siri and the subpar offensive production from Tyrone Taylor. A slash line of just 200, 255, 291. It's a 546 OPS and a weighted runs created plus of 55. That's kind of forced the Mets into having second baseman Jeff McNeil split time between his natural normal position and center field. Now, while McNeil has done an admirable job patrolling center field in 27 games across 87 plate appearances and 72 at bats, he has a slash line of 319, 402, 500 with a 902 OPS and a 152 weighted runs created plus when he's played center field. The Mets would prefer not to have him in the outfield as second base takes less of a physical toll on him. Getting Cedric Mullins from the Orioles gives the Mets a legitimate center fielder and allows them to keep McNeil at the Keystone Sack where he's best suited. Now, while a 30-homer, 30-steal All-Star Silver Slugger season like he had in 2021 may not be a ceiling he can reach anymore, Mullins should provide a solid floor at the position, both offensively and defensively. He's been just above a league average hitter since 2021. He's averaged a 102 weighted runs created plus over the last 3 seasons, and he's there again this season. In 355 plate appearances with the Orioles prior to the trade, Mullins had a slash line of 229, 305, 443. It's a 733 OPS, 104 weighted runs created plus with 15 homers and 14 steals. Overall, it's been a very up and down season for Mullins. He was very up in March and April, 278, 412, 515 slash line, 927 OPS. Weighted runs created plus of 162. He was very down in May and June. 169, 204, 338 slash line, 542 OPS, 45 weighted runs created plus. Then he was back up in July. 290, 346, 522 slash line, 868 OPS, 137 weighted runs created plus. Mullins also gives the Mets and their left-handed hitters something else the lineup is in need of, especially with DH Jesse Winker's recovery from a lower back strain taking longer than expected. Over his career, Mullins has been better against righties and lefties, but this season his splits have been reversed. He's posted a career best 298, 390, 476 slash line, 866 OPS, 143 weighted runs created plus against Southpaws in 101 plate appearances. He hasn't had an OPS above 750 or a weighted runs created plus above 100 against lefties since 2021, his first full season as the Orioles starting center fielder. Now, Stearns believes that Mullins has made some improvements to his approach against left-handed pitching, but cautions that it is a small sample size. In terms of his glove, Mullins' defensive numbers are down this season. Now, per Fangraphs, among the 21 qualified MLB center fielders, he's last in defensive runs saved, minus 14, and 15th in outs above average, plus 2. Though most of that negative DRS value accumulated in April and May while he was playing through a hamstring tweak. Not an advisable situation for a center fielder to be in. But he has long been a solid everyday center fielder. Now, Mullins has improved his defensive run saved value over the last 8 weeks, something that Stern specifically noted. He's not an all-star like he was back in 2021, but Mullins is still an MLB average hitter, good base runner, decent defender, all of which is more than the Mets were getting from Taylor. Jim Bowden of The Athletic, who spent 16 years as a Major League Baseball general manager, may have summed up the Mets' acquisition of Cedric Mullins best, saying, quote, I also like their decision to trade 3 minor league relievers for center fielder Cedric Mullins, who, despite his low batting average, is still a 20 homer, 20 steals player and a strong defender. Mullins and his high energy will fit nicely in the Mets clubhouse. I think he will. Off to a slow start, but then again, with the Mets these days on offense, who isn't? But Anthony, I think you at least short term have a bit of an upgrade in center field.
Yeah, I mean the Mets offense is kind of taking on a life of its own as far as the lack of offense. But when you think about playing center field and city field, that's a lot of ground to cover to make up. And Mullins' range as an outfielder is definitely going to help in that regard. Um, the pitching, the like the Yankees, the Mets loaded up on the bullpen. I give them a B, on the acquisitions because I do like that they added some depth because outside of Edward Diaz, the middle relievers, the bridge getting to Edward Diaz, it's like a recurring theme the last few years. We talk about the Mets, that's been a bit of a problem. Aside from Edward Diaz, the rest of the bullpen had it since June. Well, there's no that hot start that the Mets had started to kind of sputter a little bit. They had a 4.81 ERA, so there's no surprise that David Stones would address that need. One of the acquisitions you got, Ryan Helsley from the Cardinals, gives them another option as far as a late inning guy, maybe a 7 or 8 inning setup guy to get to Edwin Diaz. Um, his obviously his bread and butter is an 83-mile-per-hour sinker that he kind of like sets up for the fastball. It doesn't hit low mid 90s. But despite that velocity, his he has given up a high batting average as far as that fastball. 0.406 batting average against it. Which is part of the reason why he hasn't been the same dominant relief pitcher that we saw in 2022 and 2024. But the slider still working, 0.92 batting average against it, 45% whiff rate. And with the Mets, they don't have enough pitchers that can get a swing and misses come out of the bullpen. I think that's been pretty obvious. Also, and here's a nice little trivia question. Name identical twins who've been traded on the same day. And that would be the Rogers brothers.
Twins.
Yes. Tyler Rogers
Tyler
comes to the Mets from the San Francisco Giants. And yes, his brother Taylor was traded to the Pirates earlier in that day. But Tyler Rogers is kind of the polar opposite with what Hensley gives the Mets. Hard thrower, a guy who by the way, he's a submarine pitcher too, which is I think I might have posted his delivery on my Instagram story because I was at the game a couple of nights ago. Unfortunately, against the Guardians, gave up the lead in the seventh inning. The Guardians was able to scratch out a 1-run 3-2 win. He got gave up a couple of hits. They were both soft contact. Just basically bad luck. Know the drill. Soft contact hitting well. The outfielders aren't there, and it happens. But his delivery, he gives the Mets, like I said, the Mets bullpen depth is going to be key because one of the things that the Mets did not address was a starting pitcher. And when you look at the starting pitcher, and yes, it started with Kodai Senga's injuries and then Griffin Cannon with his Achilles. The Mets starting rotation, really for the most part of the season, has not been able to go deep in games. This is the same problem that the Yankees has had as of late. Guys can't get late in the game, get deep in the games. They're drawing up high pitch counts. Sean Manaea's one. Frankie Montas has been a complete disaster.
Yeah.
And that's just putting it mildly. I mean, he's been wildly all over the place. Senga has been kind of struggling since that injury. As far as his control a little bit. Clay Holmes has some control issues. Going through the second to the Guardians lineup the second time around when I was at Citi Field a couple of nights ago. And he's a ground ball pitcher, but he was missing high, wide a bit, and you wonder how much was him throwing a lot of pitches early in those first 4 innings, kind of taking his toll a little bit. And we've seen playoff teams, if the Mets get there, rely heavily on their bullpen. I mean, basically that's how it is. I've talked to a couple of friends of mine. We see playoff teams in the past just go to the closing situation. Basically, you have an opener and a crap load of relievers in that case. But the Mets aren't set up that way. They're set up as a traditional starting rotation, middle relievers. And that was something that I thought that the Mets should have addressed is trying to get another starting guy because I mean we're looking at a situation where the Mets don't have an ace. And it was the situation last year that the Mets didn't have a starting ace pitcher,
But
but
they
the rest of the
kind of knew
rotation
that.
I
But they
mean they
kind
kind
of
of knew
knew
it.
that going in, though. It's like you can't like get a starting if you're not going to start the season with a starting rotation pitcher, they're not really going to be too available at the trade deadline. And
Yeah.
I don't think like someone like a Zach Gallen was or Merrill Kelly was going to be able to come over to the Mets. Gallen wasn't going to be dealt, and Merrill Kelly is just a little too high on a lot of people's demands. And that's
Yeah, I look with David Stones, and I understand that in some cases the demand was high, and in Milwaukee he's been able to kind of mix and match. Some rotations has worked out quite obviously for the Brewers, but it's something that the Mets knew that they were getting into. But you also have to realize too, the starters last year, even for the first half of this year, they kind of overachieved quite a bit. They pitched beyond the expectations. Griffin Cannon especially, and he was a guy that the Atlanta Braves basically gave away for practically nothing, and he was good as far as that middle part of the rotation, and that's a big loss because he was a guy who pitched to contact and kept and was able to do that while keeping his the number of pitches thrown to at least somewhat of a minimum. But yes, when you look at the bullpen, Diaz, Reed Garrett, Ryan Stanek, I think we talked about his issues a couple of shows ago. Brooks Rally on paper, this would be a bullpen that should be able to get outs at the very least, keep the Mets in games if the starting pitch gets knocked out early. But right now, we've seen a team that lost 8 or 9 games, and it's not been a pitching completely that's been a problem. It's the fact that nobody can hit on this team. Like literally, this is I've never seen a team with this much firepower, this bad as far as hitting with runners in scoring position. And Rabbi, I'll touch you up with this because you can kind of wrap this segment up. The Mets is such an uneven team. When the hitting is good, the pitching disappears. When the pitching is lights out, they can't get the timely hitting. When they get both, the bullpen finds a way to squander it. I never seen a team that was 2 games away from a World Series berth last year, was in first place, and is only hanging around because the Phillies has been equally inconsistent for
except
their
for this
part.
week, except for this
Except for
week,
this
which is
week.
why
Yeah,
it's now 2.5
by the way,
games.
great acquisition for them. And I get to my trade deadline losers because they had a big part of that with the Phillies as well. But yes, Rabbi, just bring us home on this segment as far as what you see with the Mets right now.
I think you guys have kind of mentioned it. I mean, I think this is the Captain Obvious pick. This is some of the worst hitting of the Mets have had in God knows how long. 190, by the way, in those last 9 games where they've been 1-8 since then. Out of in their last 15 games, a pretty good sample size. Here are the Mets' top 4 hitters. Brandon Nimmo, 215 average, 591 OPS. Francisco Lindor, 238 average, 619 OPS. Juan Soto, 167 average.
Ooh,
That's not just below the Mendoza line, that's below multiple Mendoza lines. 548 OPS. Alonso, 204 average, 690 OPS. And there's not a lot of players on this team that could lift up if all of the top 4 is struggling. Eric Chavez has been having a lot of calls to be fired for the way this team has pretty much all just gone out to lunch pretty much after hitting. And I would agree right now. I know you don't want to fire anybody, but they need a spark. As a team this season, 231 batting average runners in scoring position. That's third worst in the MLB with It's the Colorado Rockies. I don't think anybody wants to be associated with the Colorado Rockies in anything known to mankind. Soft contact, it improved slightly with runners in scoring position. It's up to 60.6%. Their pull rate increases it from 37.2% with runners in scoring position. By the way, a pull rate of 37.2% is the lowest in all of Major League Baseball. So they don't have situational hitting on this team. Juan Soto, bases empty, really good. He has 20 home runs with the bases empty this year, but he has a 42.1% ground ball rate. And with runners in scoring position, he has only 5 home runs this year. It's not great. Francisco Lindor, the injury on June 4th was the big issue with him. He had a 2.8 F4 in 60 games. Since then, in almost the same amount of time, 53, a .7 F4, exit velocity down, barrel rate down. He is striking out more than 4%, walking less, down more than 2% less. Soto has been in a mini slump. His exit velocity is down. His K rate is up almost 5% from 18.4% to 23.2%. Walk rate down also. But again, the home run to break up Gavin Williams, just like maybe that home run against the Braves last year, Anthony, to break up that no hitter, maybe this is the spark that really gets it going. And obviously, Pete Alonso, above average hitter, but the underwhelming stretch that he's had lately, a K rate of up, by the way, since May 1st, K rate up from 14.7% to 26.1%, and a walk rate of 16.8% before May 1st to 7.5%. It's not good. In the current losing streak, they've had 35 runs scored. In the current losing stretch that they've had since pretty much July 28th, 35 runs scored, only 23 U.S. extra base hits in the league. Just not good. A ground ball rate of over 43% too. If the Mets have no hitting at the top of their lineup, it doesn't matter how many innings their starters give them. It doesn't matter what their bullpen does. This team is not built to win 2-1 games all of the time. And if that's the case, there's going to be a lot of questions to be answered. Yes, it's normal when your whole team goes into a slump for that to happen. But this bad is historically not this bad. It's kind of historic what's been going on to this Mets team, especially for the last week and a half. And they go to the best team in baseball starting tomorrow night in the Milwaukee Brewers. So if there's light at the end of the tunnel, that light might be dimming, and Bernie Brewer might be putting himself right in front of that light. And I don't see a path right now for the Mets to kind of get their act together except time.
Rabbi, that light, that's an oncoming number 7 train.
It's about to hit them. It's about to hit them right now if it doesn't keep going.
Well, I'll tell you this, Bernie Brewer's gonna have slide marks and slide burns if this weekend turns out the way I think it's gonna turn out. Look, you do not want to be associated with a Colorado team that gets beat 20-1 at home in Coors Field. How you score 1 run in Coors Field and give up 20 in your own backyard? It's beyond me. And I joked that in City Field in the summertime, the balls jump out there. I would say this is something that doesn't get talked about often. The Mets starting pitching early in the season goes so well, but it's somewhat inflated because of the cold weather in an open air stadium and in City Field. That it functions almost like the Shea Stadium where the wind could be an issue. The ball doesn't carry nearly as much. The moment the weather starts getting warmer, it is like a bandbox. It plays exactly like Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, where you just cannot keep the ball in the ballpark, even on accidental contact. And I always felt like the Mets pitching kind of gets inflated a bit because of the climate changes. But then as the weather warms up, you start to see more fly balls coming out. You see the ground, like I talked about Clay Holmes' control issues and missing high. And for a ground ball pitcher, you definitely do not want that, especially and warm temperatures. And yeah, like I said, the Mets hitting has been the biggest problem, but the starting pitching is a concern because this is the
It's
second year
all
in
a
a row we've
concern.
seen. Yeah, it's all concern, and
It,
we've
It's all
seen
a
them kind of
concern.
overachieve. But at some point, you can only get away with it so much before it gets exploited, and the better teams have been exploiting it. By the way, as of late.
it's what's interesting to me, guys, and Rabbi, I'll just throw these two out there and then we can move on. What's interesting to me as a Yankee fan who followed, who saw Clay Holmes, the last couple of years in the Bronx and who watched Soto last year. With Holmes, the thing that always was interesting, and Anthony, you talked about, a sinker ball pitcher can't miss high. It's something that that happens to him with overuse. You saw it when he had to throw too many pitches in an appearance out of the bullpen as a Yankee last year. He's passed any max innings level he's previously thrown. So you got to wonder if the fatigue is getting to him more than is finally getting to him, and that's leading to him missing high more often than he did earlier in the season, because he came out of the gate like gangbusters and he was pretty much a really good shutdown pitcher coming out of the gate. With Soto, Soto is baffling to me. I mean, you dropped that stat: 20 homers with the bases empty, 5 with runners on. This is a guy who made a killing last year in the Bronx by coming through with runners on base, with runners in scoring position. His script has completely flipped, and it's mind-boggling to me. I don't know if it's the contract, if it's the pressure, or what, or it's the fact that, I don't know. It's just a remarkable.
I think it's everything.
It's all the above. It could be.
I'm gonna make everybody happy here. Actually, I'm gonna make Jay happy with this final step because you just mentioned the 20-1 game that Toronto had over Colorado. In that series, I believe it was 45-6 Toronto over Colorado. The Blue Jays are the first team to outscore an opponent. This is, by the way, coming from David Salatoro of, I think, Poker News, but it's a good stat. The Blue Jays are the first team to outscore an opponent by at least 39 runs over 3 games since the Yankees did it to the Athletics in May 13th and 24th of 1936. Lou Gehrig was their first baseman. Joe DiMaggio was a rookie. And Tony Lazzeri had 11 RBIs in one game.
And the A's were still in Philadelphia.
They absolutely were still in Philadelphia. Didn't say it was the Oakland A's. Said it was the Athletics.
One player had 11 RBIs in one game?
had 11 RBI in that game, yeah.
And you're still pitching to him?
It's 1936. I don't think
it was a little different back then.
It's 1936, man. It's 1936. I don't think that they actually knew what was going on in the other at bats. They only had a scorecard to really look at to kind of find their way.
130 pitches, man. There was no such thing as a bullpen.
And there was it was a milkman coming in later in that day to be there. That if you wanted to tell the stories of basketball and baseball, but we got to move on. We have to move on. So other teams did things at the trade deadline. When we stay New York focused, I'm sorry, I kind of dripped off when we think about other teams. Some teams did a lot. Some teams did a lot of shedding players, and some teams did nothing. Did nothing. Yeah, they did nothing. So, Jay, let's go to the team who won the trade deadline. And unlike me, this team always gets a little, sleepless sometimes.
Yeah, they do. This is kind of a bit of a no-brainer. It's the Seattle Mariners. I mean, it picked up Josh Naylor on July 24th, Eugenio Suarez on the 30th. Both of those guys from the Diamondbacks, and they picked up relief pitcher Caleb Ferguson also on the 30th from the Pirates. Jerry DiPoto, the Mariners head of baseball ops, is one of the shrewdest in the game, and he's never been afraid to pull the trigger on a trade. He is the best trader of this era. Since coming to Seattle, he's done 190 trades, including the ones made this season, according to a trade tracker that's maintained by Jordan Schusterman of Yahoo Sports. One of the few knocks on DiPoto recently was his inability to add big bats to an offense that has often lagged behind a solid to excellent pitching staff. This year is no different, as the Mariners, despite having the second best OPS plus in the American League, came into August with only a plus 22 run differential despite a 58-52 record. He was scoring 4.5 runs per game, but they were giving up 4.3, leaving them very little margin for error. Now, all-star catcher Cal Raleigh is having an MVP caliber year with an MLB leading 42 homers and 90 RBI. His .587 slugging percentage, .944 OPS, and .159 weighted runs created plus are all top 4 across Major League Baseball and second in the American League to Aaron Judge, the junior circuit's reigning MVP. However, the lineup around him needed some length. Yes, both center fielder Julio Rodriguez, 254, 310, 441 slash line, 751 OPS, 113 weighted runs created plus, 21 homers, 62 RBI, 21 steals, and 74 runs scored. And left fielder Randy Arozarena, 246, 349, 465 slash line, 814 OPS, 133 weighted runs created plus, 22 homers, 55 RBI, 21 steals, 64 runs scored, are both having solid seasons. But Seattle's corner infield positions, which are traditionally run-producing spots, hadn't done as much as both first baseman Rowdy Tellez, who was DFA'd in June, and third baseman Ben Williamson posted OPSs under 700 and graded out as less than MLB average hitters, both posting weighted runs created marks of less than 100. And neither Luke Raley nor Donovan Solano, who have filled in at first base after Tellez, they haven't done anything anymore with the bat than Tellez did. So Dipoto, who came into the trade deadline period post All-Star game through 7/31, looking for either a first baseman or a third baseman who carried a big stick, wound up getting both. And he did it without having to empty their farm system of major league ready prospects. Now, Naylor, acquired on July 24th, gave the Mariners a significant upgrade at first base. Overall, 93 games with Arizona prior to the trade, covering 394 plate appearances, 349 at-bats. He put up a 292, 360, 447 slash line, 807 OPS, 123 weighted runs created plus, 11 homers, 59 RBI, 11 steals, 49 runs scored. In his 3 full seasons in Cleveland prior to this season, he averaged 23 homers, 95 RBI, 61 runs scored on a 267, 330, 465 slash line, 795 OPS, 121 weighted runs created plus. He's one of the hardest batters to strike out. He has a career strikeout rate of just 16.1%, which fits in quite well with the Mariners team that has been in the bottom 5 in strikeouts the past 3 seasons. The left-handed hitting Naylor is also a menace to right-handed pitchers, as evidenced by the 310, 390, 493 slash line, 884 OPS, 144 weighted runs created plus he put up in Arizona. Suarez, the most sought-after third baseman and power hitter of the trade deadline season, was acquired on July 30th, and he gives the Mariners lineup arguably the best 1-2 punch in team history. Seattle has a chance to have the first pair of hitters with 50 homers in a season each since Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris did it for the World Series champion Yankees in 1961. That was the year Roger Maris hit 61. Mantle finished with 56. In 106 games with the Diamondbacks prior to the trade, Suarez put up a 248, 325, 76 slash line, an 897 OPS, and a 143 weighted runs created plus, 36 homers, 87 RBI, 64 runs scored. My pal Jason Stark of The Athletic found some interesting nuggets about Suarez. 2 of them jumped out at me. 1, he's the first player since 1995 to lead one league in RBI and be traded to the team with the other league's RBI leader. He's also the 4th player in Major League Baseball history to have a 4-homer game and be traded in the same season, but he's the first to do it before he got traded. Only in baseball. Oh, here's another little nugget. This is not the first time the Mariners have traded for 2 corner infielders from the same team in the same season. Back in 2006, they acquired Eduardo Perez and Ben Broussard from Cleveland. Now, those 2 wound up playing a combined 198 games in Seattle and combined for a negative 1.6 wins above replacement. I'm thinking Naylor and Suarez will do just a wee bit better in the Pacific Northwest. Oh, and before I forget, the Mariners were in need of another left-handed reliever, so Dipoto went out and got Caleb Ferguson from the Pirates on July 30. The 7-year vet put up a 374 ERA in 45 appearances with Pittsburgh prior to the trade. He's not a swing and miss guy. His K rate is just 19.3%, but he does get left-handed hitters out, holding them to a slash line of just 167, 257, 182. That's a 439 OPS. And he allows 0 homers and 74 plate appearances against left-handed batters. He gives the Mariners another left-handed option besides Gabe Speier, the only other left-handed reliever with more than 5 innings pitched this season for the Mariners. He's held lefty hitters to a 181, 224, 319 slash line. That's a 543 OPS, and he's allowed just 2 home runs in 76 plate appearances. Seattle had one of the best trading deadline periods of any team in Major League Baseball this year. They had clearly recognizable holes in their lineup, and Trader Jerry filled them with 2 of the best players available at those positions without giving up the fun. Doesn't get much better than that, guys.
Isn't Trader Jerry where you go and get your best foods in New York also, or is
No,
that?
that would be Trader Joe.
That's Trader Joe's.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. By the way, Seattle only 1.5 games out right now in the West. It's a very fun race. There's 8 teams who are over 500, with Cleveland being the worst at 59 and 55, and if I count correctly, 10 teams who are currently in that 2 under range to leading. So I think it's going to be interesting because that Seattle, who's not really had a lot of success, they've never made a World Series, has the best team that they possibly can to make that, but still got to get through Houston first, and that's not an easy task either. So, Anthony, we have a problem in the Twin Cities. There is no more Twins team. They got rid of almost 30% of their team at the trade deadline.
Yep.
They're selling, and oh yeah, they're selling.
Oh yeah, definitely. There was a garage sale in Minneapolis.
That was a fire sale, man.
Oh man, you know
That's
what?
going at a business sale.
You know what? I really think the Minnesota Twins just chose to purify themselves in the words of Lake Minnetonka during the trade deadline, because they literally gave, and within a span of 48 hours, 10 players was gone. That was literally $65 million of their salary wiped off the books.
Yep.
Faster than you can say Black Monday, but that's another story. Here's the list of players. Carlos Correa goes back to Houston. Nice homecoming there. Johan Duran goes to Philadelphia. Thank you for making us Mets fans' life even more miserable. You gave Philadelphia the Durantula. And by the way, you sent Hamilton Bader over to Philadelphia as well. Chris Paddock goes to the Detroit Tigers, who's in first place, by the way, in the AL Central. Brock Stewart goes to the Dodgers. Danny Colomb goes to Texas. Louis Waller goes to Toronto, along with Ty France. Will Castro goes to the Cubs. And Griffin Jax goes to Tampa Bay. They pretty much gave a fire sale to every playoff team you can think of who is in need of some kind of a stockpile. Now here's the thing. They still got some pieces to kind of work things around. They were able to get a couple of big league utility guys like James Outman, Alex Rodon, but the pieces they still have moving forward. Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez at the top of the rotation. Good 1-2 combination there. Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis, Matt Waller, Ryan Jeffers are still in the clubhouse. So there's something there, at least as far as moving forward and rebuilding from scratch. I mean, think about this. This is a Twins team that completely collapsed late last season and missed the playoffs altogether. And this year has not been any better. Like, I remember the spring training show, I actually predicted the team out of the AL Central to miss the playoffs. I just picked the wrong team because the team I picked
really picked the wrong team in that case.
And we joke about brain cramps
Joke
before
about
the
this
show.
a lot.
That was one on my part. But yeah, the combination, and you do wonder with the Twins kind of basically giving pieces away. How much of the franchise being basically for sale has something to do with that? I mean, you do wonder new ownership will come in and maybe tear it down completely, tear down the rest of the roster, maybe start over from scratch. There's a lot of question marks that is facing this franchise. Excuse me, I got a bit of the hiccups here, but there's a lot of question marks facing the Minnesota Twins franchise. Not really this season, but in the offseason and going into next year, as far as to sell this team, but also the direction of where this team is headed. Is it a rebuild on the fly to maybe they can squeak in as a wild card team, or is it a total rebuild for a franchise that you know what they will look at as one of the younger, more probably fun teams to watch to now basically playing out the string. And yeah, like I said, I don't think I've ever seen a team completely tear it down in a matter of 2 days as at the rate that the Twins did. I mean, look, like if you was a playoff team, that was the team you needed to get your fix from. I mean, if you needed a power hitter, you needed an outfielder, you needed a reliever. Hey, the Twins were giving it all away without even a blink of an eye. So yes, Minnesota is the biggest losers. As a matter of fact, ESPN's Jeff Passan gave them the Juggling Octopus Award, which yeah, it's that's a
Man,
hell of a job you did when you get that kind of award. You're doing a heck of a juggling act, and there's not even one that's getting a round of applause, at least from Twins fans.
I think one of the weird things about having a league now that we're 12 out of 30 teams make the playoffs is when you sell, it's noticeable that you really want to just like you don't just want to be a fifth seed into the postseason. You want to make some noise, which is why Arizona kind of did something a little bit of the same thing. They're a team that just made the World Series 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So it's intriguing to see. We talk about basketball all the time with a majority of that team being in of that league being in the play-in or the playoffs. Do you want to be that type of team that's a 9 or 10 seed every single year with a possibility of making the playoffs, or do you want to build for a huge future? And that's kind of what Minnesota might be doing here. Not necessarily sure if they have a ceiling, but that ceiling seems to not be as high as other teams. And even when they're good, they still have an extra level to go. And that just seems to be the way this team has been since the 2000s. They're good, but they're not that good.
Here's the thing,
Yeah,
though, Rabbi. They play in the AL Central, which, yeah, right now Detroit is at the top of the heap in that division, but we've seen that division go through, they cycle through teams at the top, kind of the way we cycle through Sox. I mean, Kansas City had its time recently. Now it's Detroit. Even Cleveland has had its time. The Twins had their time. It goes in cycles, and I don't know that anybody lasts more than 3 years up at the top before the fact that their salary constraints. These are all mid-market teams. Yeah, Detroit, okay, but they're and the White Sox, but they're all teams that are, middle of the pack. Their owners don't spend a whole lot of money. So it's gonna get cyclical. And yeah, the Twins are gonna basically have decided, to cash in this season and kind of start the rebuild now. But who knows? A couple of good moves here, there, a couple of free agent signings, down the road a piece. They could once again be back up competing for the top of the heap in the AL Central. It's just kind of how
yeah.
that goes.
And
And the
the
one
AL
thing,
Central. Go ahead, go ahead, bye.
go ahead, go ahead. I was
Oh,
gonna say the one
well,
thing
I was
is
going to say that the AL Central kind of reminds me of the NFC East in football, where we had that stretch where it just seems like
Nobody
no
replaces
one
the division
can
champ.
we
replace the
still are
division champ.
having we're
And we're
still
still
having
having
that
that.
stretch. We're not it's not done. There hasn't been a repeat winner in that league since 2003.
No.
So it's going to be very intriguing to see. Forgot what I was going to say beforehand, but let's talk about the team that did absolutely nothing at the trade deadline. That was kind of funny how I was saying, like, you want to make sure you're a top seed. You want to make sure you are a championship contender. Yeah, the Dodgers are a championship contender. Sure, they have some of the best hitting pretty much ever in a lineup that's almost too good to be true. But they're only the third best team right now in the NL, and they're only 2 games up on the Padres. And I understand when you spend money every offseason to get everything that you possibly can to expand your market, to do what you can. you still have to find mid-season adjustments. And I don't think this team really did this at the trade deadline. They got Alex Call on offense, but he was hitting 269 in 74 games, but he only has 14 extra base hits on the season. And you have a huge, we talked about it. I understand you're not going to be playing the violins for the Dodgers every single time when they have one huge problem in their lineup. And that problem is Michael Conforto. His stat line is not good. It's 183, 296, 320 going into the beginning of this week. 616 OPS, 8 home runs, and 23 RBIs. That is basically the worst season of his career. Former All Star, and he hasn't really been that good since 2021. So when you have Betts, Ohtani, Friedman in a lineup, you can't have a guy who's missing in all of these spots. And that eventually will not get the ball to Ohtani every now and then. That will not get the lineup over to Mookie every now and then. So that's just kind of an issue in itself. I mean, it's not a big issue, but when you're fighting the cannon that is the San Diego Padres, who are willing to fire the cannonball in any way, shape, or form, who basically got you to an elimination game in last year's NLDS, and you were stuck pitching a bullpen game in that game. I would worry about those same Padres going forward if I had to see them again in the NLDS. So they also didn't really do a lot in their pitching. They got a reliever, Brock Stewart. They traded away Dustin May to the Red Sox, thanks. And who actually had a good outing against them, I think, like literally the Sunday beforehand when they had their series. The Dodgers are vulnerable right now. Sure. The one thing I always hate hearing, and I understand it's a phrase that general managers love to say, but we're getting this guy back. So that's like getting an acquisition at the trade deadline. No, it's not. It's not really that way because you know they might not be the same person. Just look at what Luis Gil just did for the Yankees. You're not getting prime Luis Gil for a while. So Blake Snell made his first start since April last week. Tyler Glass now is in a better direction. Roki Sasaki, remember him? He's not had a great 2025, and he's probably not going to be on the postseason rotation unless he has a little bit of a run coming back from his injury. So you're just kind of there going forward. You have Yamamoto. I mean, again, they're still uber talented. They still have the best player in the entire world, the best two-way player possibly we've ever seen in the history of Major League Baseball and Shohei Ohtani. But baseball, you're not playing a 7-game series in the NLDS. You're playing a 5-game series in the NLDS, so anything can really happen. And when you get to the 7-game series, if you have, right now, again, the Dodgers have a worse record right now than both the Brewers and the Cubs, and they're pretty much neck and neck with the Phillies. They're only really, I think, like 2.5 games up on the Mets themselves, and the Mets have been doing jack shit for basically about a week and a half. I think the Dodgers need to realize that you may want to not think that the magic wand is going to appear and everything is going to be all right when we get to October, because that kind of inaction makes you think that the moment when they get eliminated, they're like, oh, how did that happen? Here's how it happened. You did nothing at the trade deadline. Your shrewd moves that you've been doing all off season, you didn't do at the trade deadline, and you paid for it. So, Dodgers, if you end up not winning the World Series this year, you could point to this as the reason.
And honestly, Rabbi, this was seriously the wrong year for them to be, to stand pat at the trade deadline. Last year, they were far and away the class of the National League. This year, they're not. And the gap between them and the rest of the National League has shrunk considerably. You said it. The Padres are better. As Anthony said, the Phillies got better. The Cubs got better. The Brewers got better.
Best team in baseball.
So, I mean, this is the thing. The Dodgers' lack of action, considering the fact that the pack is nipping at their heels compared to where like they were, maybe they saw them on the horizon last year at this time. Situations completely changed. That you're right. That lack of action at the trade deadline to do more than just potentially fill in at the margins could wind up coming back to bite them in the ass in October.
Yeah, and I'll also pile on a bit too. I never like count the Dodgers out because they have one of the best managers in baseball, Dave Roberts. They have the veteran presence there too. Freddie Freeman being one of a big veteran presence guy. Of course, they have the greatest baseball player right now on the planet, Shohei Ohtani. They have Yamamoto. They still have the pieces there. But you think about this, they would have hit the class last year and got pushed to a deciding fifth game by the Padres. It was almost taken to the limit by a Met team that just didn't have any starting pitching left and ran out of gas.
And
This
hey,
year,
if the Yankees don't completely boot the fifth inning of that game, who knows?
Well,
yeah,
they get
I
back
was
to
like,
California, absolutely, and they get to a game set. So we would
yeah.
see what happens, but who knows
And
indeed.
then you look at this year, the National League is so top heavy. I mean, you think about like you look at these teams, and as bad as the Mets has been, they got a comfortable lead in the wild card. And
Three games
it's
over the
10 years because I
Reds.
know
Let's not
because I
don't say the
mean
words comfortable lead in anything when it
yeah,
comes to the
especially with the
Mets.
Mets. But at least at the moment. But the Dodgers look so vulnerable right now. And if you're the Padres, you hate this team. You are licking your chops at another crack at the Dodgers in a playoff series.
Yep.
If you are the Cubs, would you love to have the Dodgers having to come to Wrigley and deal with the wind blowing in? So now whatever power they have isn't going to work whatsoever. How about the Phillies having to play in that environment in Citizens Bank during the postseason? And I mean, the Dodgers just look so vulnerable, and the fact that you didn't do anything to make this team better, and you just stay pat. I mean, that's a roll of the dice. I think that's a gamble. I mean, you just don't realize how the teams around you have gotten better, and you are the hunter. You're not the hunter anymore. That's what happens when you win when you win the World Series. You don't get to hunt anybody else anymore. You're defending your territory. And the Dodgers did a poor job in the trade deadline trying to get pieces to kind of fortify their own fort because the rest of the teams are right now just they're building for the postseason run, and the Dodgers for whatever reason is 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 banking on the magic that they got last October, and I don't know if they can replicate that.
I don't know. I mean, flipping a switch when it becomes the postseason. I don't know if that's the province of anyone other than the Steph Curry Golden State Warriors in their heyday.
All right. We're already done. Your boy is tired. So for Jay Kaplan and Anthony Strait, I'm the ultimate player to be named later, Stephen Rabinowitz. And by the way, we mentioned it last week, and I'm going to mention again. I was not in the stands of a WNBA game on Sunday or Tuesday in Los Angeles throwing a certain object on the court that was not me. I did not throw it at anybody. Do not come for me. Do not at me. I love everybody except Sophie Cunningham.
Rabbi, nobody. If you were to tell anybody you were at a WNBA game at any point over the last few years, Anthony and I both would have claimed shenanigans on your part. Okay,
I was actually at a WNBA game 2 years ago, so do not give me crap on that. Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that I'm kind of questioning if I should go to any more Liberty games. The last two games I've gone to, we've lost Jacqueline Jones and Breonna
Oh,
Stewart,
yeah,
and in those games, I'm thinking about staying away from
dude,
the Barclays
you
Center the rest
can't,
of the
okay?
season.
Because the next time, if the next time you show up, it costs us Sabrina. I'm coming for you, okay?
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm thinking different by staying away the rest of the year. Look,
all
if
right.
it gets the Liberty back to the championship, I'm willing to make the sacrifice.
YouTube.com/on the sports lines on demand, Facebook.com/on the sports lines live where we're on tonight. And then there's X/Twitter, Jay.
Yep, our Twitter handle is at ONTH Sportslines, where you'll find a link to each new show like tonight's, along with tidbits and nuggets from the world of sports that we think are worth your time to check out. History will be made this weekend when Jen Powell becomes the first woman to umpire a Major League Baseball game. When she works the remainder of the Marlins-Braves series. She will be on the bases for Saturday's doubleheader, and she is slated to call balls and strikes in Sunday's series finale. The Athletics' Melissa Lockard and Evan Drellich detail the long road Powell had to travel to reach the pinnacle every umpire aspires to. The link to their piece is on our Twitter page and is very much worth your time to check out.
Anthony, put the hat on. Put the hat on.
Roll Pride, baby.
Former softball player. Roll Pride. Roll Pride. 2 weeks, guys. You ready to talk some college football as the season begins?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Until then, we'll see you on the sports lines. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.